Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live with me, Daniel Caw, and the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
I'm alright, mate. You?
I'm great. I look forward to those intros now more than anything.
Yes,
we're obviously here this afternoon reacting. Celtic and Hibs, or Hibs and Celtic rather, have just finished up at Easter Road. In truth, Celtic had it done and dusted after the first 20 minutes, really, didn't they?
18 minutes. McGregor ripped one into the back of the net from distance, and it was game over. Actually became a bit of a non-event for large periods of the second half. Hibs then at least ended with a little bit of fight, but that was a really worrying performance from Hibs in that first half. The mood music around about Easter Road hasn't been great over the last few weeks. I think there was a bit of jeering when the team went off at half time. They're in a bit of bother, and of course, wouldn't you just know they'll get Celtic again next weekend? So these are difficult times. They were appallingly bad in the first half of that game, Hibs. They couldn't have complained if Celtic had gone in at half time 4 or 5-0 up on their own pitch, which doesn't bode well at all. But they made some substitutions. They livened up towards the end. But you felt as if Celtic actually put the tools back in the bag after about 20 minutes because the dominance was unchecked. Yeah.
I mean, I do think you touched on it there that, look, Hibs fans, I think, are realistic. They don't think they're going to be winning the Premiership, but I think they just want to see their team, particularly at home, be competitive, put up a fight. And in the first half, there was none of that at all.
What was I've got it here, was it 2 minutes and 47 seconds it took for Celtic to score?
First attack, first break up the pitch.
Nicholas, I mean, it was extraordinary defending or lack thereof. When Kyogo got on the break over the halfway line, it was just so easy. And do you know something? It was the determination of James Forrest who, Kyogo hit a shot, keeper spills it. James Forrest had the determination to get to the ball first, then fires it back across the 6-yard box. Kuhn slipping in at the back post, gets himself a tap in. But that was all about desire. That was all about, I want to get there first. I want to make sure that, I beat my man to that ball. It was only Celtic's players that were showing that. There was no desire. And that's at the start of a game at home to the champions. A decent crowd. They really have to take a look at themselves for how they started that match, because from that moment on they were done. But I think, as you said, Daniel, the Hibs fans aren't expecting miracles here, but what they are expecting is for when Celtic come to town, or Rangers or Hearts or whoever, they expect their side to put up a genuine fight. That was a capitulation.
Aye. Well, look, obviously we weren't at the game this afternoon, but one man who was Record Sports' Michael Gannon, and we caught up with him just after full time. Mick, I know you were at Easter Road this afternoon. In truth, Celtic had it all wrapped up after 18 minutes.
Yeah, kind of strange actually. I mean, Celtic, absolutely resounding win. It was 2-0 going on, goodness knows what. The last kind of 15-20 minutes, Hibs came on and made a bit more respectable, their kind of late kind of display. But at that point, the game is well and truly gone. First half was about as one-sided a game as you'll ever see. Celtic were really quick, slick, same as they've been in the last few weeks. Really, really impressive. But you've got to say, Hibs, oh boy, oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, defending at Hibs, if that's how they're going to defend this season, and last week's evidence against St Mirren, first half here, they are in big, big trouble. I mean, literally standing back watching the Celtic team, who they know are going to be quick and come at them. I mean, the goals, dear oh dear, defending-wise, great goals from Celtic point of view. His point of view, abysmal defending. Standing back watching the first goal, ball over the top. Kyogo had less space at 40 yards than he had at 18 yards when he had a shot. Goalkeeper bails out with the save, and then they all standing back watching this recycled ball. Shocking. Second goal again. Duff clearance. Ball moved out to Kuhn, standing back watching. He walks back inside, knocks it to McGregor. Acres of space, pick your spot. Brilliant goal. McGregor today again. Steve Clark's in the stands. Poor Steve. Must have been sobbing at his pie at half time. But impressive. Hibs less so. But
What was
last 10 minutes.
What was the sort of mood in the place like, Mick? Because I get the impression that Hibs fans are running out of patience here.
I think the last 15, 20 minutes took the edge off it a wee bit. They gave it a go, I think, after Kieran Bowie came on, looked a bit lively, came on. So the last 15, 20 minutes took the edge off it a wee bit. Half time, there was boos. First half, they looked like a team that could end up getting relegated. That's how bad it was the first half. That's the word getting used around here in the press box, that this looks like a team that could be in big bother. There's no team at the bottom of this league this year that's going to get cut off all through the season. So it's going to be a scrap in the bottom of the league. And if it fell like that, that's where they're going. But I thought the second half didn't start great. But then I think the last 15, 20 minutes, I thought they gave it a bit of a go, Hibs. And they had a few wee chances. Martin Boyle worked his socks off, needed help. Need a lot of help, didn't get much help. Middle of the park, completely overrun. I mean, you got to feel for Hibs. You're playing against the best midfield in Scotland, who are really on song just now. McGregor, Hatate, Riley again ran the show. So it's a tough task playing as that. But you can at least do the kind of hard stuff, chase them down, make things hard.
Yeah.
At least try and match the work rate. But they just get bypassed completely today. Middle of the park for Hibs.
I imagine Brendan Rodgers must have been close to palpitations when he saw Kyogo going down a couple of times in that second half, man.
Well, this is where they are just now. They're walking this tightrope with one striker, which is quite frankly ridiculous, isn't it? Really,
Yeah,
it was 2 weeks into a season with one striker. I mean, a club with £70-80 million in the bank with one striker in the books, it's crazy. And you end up with Mickey Johnson up top for the last 10 minutes, and he's a sore one. He's got to come off. I've got a bump in the face. So no striker at the end. So, but you've got to think that'll get addressed in the next kind of week or so. But it is a bit strange that they're allowed this to kind of rumble on so long.
It really has to get fixed. I just look at it and I'm wondering if, in some regards, Brendan was doing a little bit of managerial Morse code with that substitution. This is what I'm reduced to.
Well, this is what he's got. He doesn't have any choice. I mean, he's got to get Kyogo off. As soon as the game's won, you need to get him off because they need to wrap him cotton wool just now. They can't lose him. I can't afford to lose him. You think that'll change? I think this week you will see some change on that front. But it's only two strikers, not one. I mean, either you expect to get done eventually, but they still need another one because two is not enough either.
Yeah.
Mick, I know you've got post-match duties to do. We'll leave you to do that. Thank you very much for joining us on Hotline Live as ever.
Bye-bye, Michael.
Cheers, Mick.
Back to work now.
Cheers. Michael Gannon there, live a bit earlier from Easter Road. As you can probably imagine, Keith, the Celtic fans have been rampant on the Record Sports social media pages, and I should say, if you want to get involved in the conversation, leave a comment in the comment section below. Trevor Phillips, the champions go marching on with another breathtaking performance. The 11 teams already waving the white flag. The German Messi with another goal and assist unplayable. Michael Keenan, just give us the treble now. This league's too easy. 4 in a row on the way. Paul McCauley, a few signings and we can announce the league. Harry Campbell, a bit more philosophical though. He says, I managed to watch the full game today. Scales was cut out several times and Celtic were lucky that Hibs couldn't capitalise. Europe will be a different story. It was a kind of weird game, wasn't it? Because as we've touched on, it was all over, before it started.
Yeah, but there's some interesting points there. And, I'm just sitting down to write my column for tomorrow's paper. And I'm taking a sort of a forensic look at where Celtic are right now in terms of the squad and what needs to happen. And I think it's fair to say that Brendan Rodgers, he's fronting it up quite well. He's doing all the right things, but I'm sure that he has laid down a stack of demands to the Celtic board in terms of what he needs before the window closes at the end of this month. And I actually think, Daniel, when you look at it, I think that's a fair point. Liam Scales, is he really? I think he's done a great job. So he's come into the team, but is he going to be equipped for a Champions League campaign? Because if you do make errors at that level, you will be punished for them. Mm-hmm. So there's one. I really believe Celtic need another option at centre half. They absolutely need cover at left back. Competition for Greg Taylor. I really like Greg Taylor. I wouldn't be in no rush to see him lose his first team place, but you can't have one left back going into a campaign like this. What's happening with Matt O'Reilly? Are you going to need another central midfield player in there? Because you can't just let him leave without at least attempting to replace him. And Brendan Rodgers already said himself he wants 2 strikers, and it wouldn't surprise me if he feels he could do with some more quality on the flank. I know that Celtic are traditionally snowed under with wingers, but have they got the quality for the Champions League? It's no surprise to me to see that James Forrest is now a regular starter again. And what does that tell you about the guys that have been brought in? It tells me that the manager doesn't think they're good enough. And if they're not good enough for Hibs away, what are they going to be like in the Champions League? Yeah. So these are all issues. I genuinely think now. We were down at Lennoxtown a week or so ago, and I asked Brendan Rodgers at that point if he could put a number on how many players he feels he needs to recruit before the season, or certainly before the window closes, and he declined to put a number on it. And I think he was doing the guys at the top of the staircase a favour when he declined to put a number on it, because it eased a little bit of pressure. Because if he said, well, I need 5 and they need to be first team ready, and Celtic fail to produce that number, then all eyes go to the board and the chief executive, Michael Nicholson. They're sitting on a fortune. They can't afford not to spend some of it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. We've got comments coming in all the time. Leslie McCormack live on Facebook. Some goal from McGregor. Hibs worked hard but poor in possession. Celtic should have won by more. And Mark Nicholas Moore, who writes in, I'm heading off to the bookies now. Celtic will be lifting a European trophy in May. I think that's maybe a little bit getting ahead of himself, but you never know. See the O'Reilly thing, Keith? I wanted to ask your opinion on, like, we all know the transfer window shuts at the end of the month, but surely Celtic have perhaps got to put their own kind of deadline on this for instance, if he goes on deadline day and they've got no time to replace him, that'd
be a catastrophic piece of mismanagement.
You'd think they've got to have something in place. Say, look, if it's not done by X date, you can't go. Surely.
Yeah, I would imagine that will be the case. The problem that they've got is that if someone does come in and they leave it late, and but Celtic's sort of price is matched, if it is late on in the window, you've then got a potential problem with the player. If the player has sat patiently and hasn't kicked up a fuss, but accepts that there is a premium fee involved if he is to move on, well, if that fee is triggered and he's then denied the opportunity to move and financially secure himself for the rest of life, that causes its own problems. It can cause its own problems once the window closes, and you're stuck with a guy that feels that he has been denied. The idea that Celtic would allow it to get to the clock running down just hours before the window closes to confront that sort of situation, I just don't believe it. I think what you need to remember with Celtic is these guys know what they're doing. They're extremely well-run business, extremely well-run football club. They haven't stacked up all these titles and trophies over the last few years by not knowing how to take care of their own affairs. I don't think you'll be looking at an amateur hour setup in this transfer window. I think they'll have a strategic plan. My concern is, and I think it's a growing frustration amongst the Celtic supporters, is how long does it take? The Adam Eder thing's starting to get ridiculous. And we're talking there to Michael. You're throwing on Mikey Johnson from the bench, a winger who wasn't good enough to rival the other wingers who Brendan Rodgers feels aren't good enough to rival James Forrest, and you're playing him at centre forward. And that is plainly ridiculous. And I understand that Celtic are playing a bit of a cat and mouse game with Norwich over the price for Adam Eder, but actually they're going to have to bite the bullet and go on with it because their manager right now is undermanned. And the fact that he's having to take, Kyogo went down twice, as I said to Michael. He's gone down twice there, and the worrying one for I think all Celtic supporters will be his shoulder, because it's never it's a problem that's kind of lain dormant for a while, but everybody knows it's going to have to be addressed at some point. The problem is that nobody knows when that day will come.
Mm-hmm.
Does it happen one day in training? Does it happen like today during a game? It clearly needs to be surgically healed. He needs an operation. And they're playing a dangerous game just now, thinking that injury like that could go at any moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was to go at this particular moment, the Celtic have got a serious problem. And not just in terms of, are they equipped for the Champions League? Are they equipped for the domestic season?
Mm-hmm.
If Kyogo was to fall over tomorrow and they don't have anybody other than Mikey Johnson to replace him.
Aye. It seems absurd. But I wanted to ask you as well, Keith, do you have any insight into exactly why is it taking so long? I mean, why is it that, and it all seems to be from the outside looking in anyway, that Celtic seem to struggle to get these deals over the line? It seems like other clubs are really quick, really prompt. It feels kind of odd from the outside looking in.
Well, again, you say that, but they do not too bad.
Aye, true.
When you look over the years, they know what they're doing. But this is why it's a surprise to me that the Adam Ida one. Yeah, I know they'll probably think that they can save themselves a few quid, but it is getting to the point now where it is starting to look ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even a matter of perception of how it looks to anybody. The fact of the matter is, the manager is resorting to having to play a guy that he sent on loan to West Brom last season as the replacement when Kyogo pulls up and needs treatment.
And it's not in his position.
No, and that one, it just has to get done, and it has to get done as an absolute priority this week. And I fully expect, because they know the downside of not spending an appropriate level of money in this transfer window, the downsides would be enormous. Mm-hmm. And for that reason alone, I fully expect that they will spend significant fees between now and the 1st of September. I think, I'll put a number on it where Brendan Rodgers wasn't prepared to do that. I think they probably do need 5, minimum 4 new arrivals.
Do you think they'll get them, Keith?
I would be completely flabbergasted as to why not if they were to fail, because they've got the funds. It's not difficult to attract a good level of player to Celtic right now. You're guaranteed league titles, you're guaranteed Champions League. It's not a hard sell, and they've got loads and loads and loads of cash. Mm-hmm. So honestly, I would be utterly perplexed. It would be beyond bewildering if Celtic don't make some major moves. And I like everybody else, I'm at a loss to explain as to why they're leaving it just as late as this. But I come back to the overarching sort of message is that this isn't their first rodeo. They've been doing this quite successfully for quite a period of time. But even I am starting to look at it and think, I think guys, you could be doing with getting a move on here.
Well, just the final thing on Celtic, Keith. We obviously found out a couple of days ago that Callum McGregor, you and Mick touched on it, he's now retired from Scotland duty. Were you surprised by that, and how big a blow is it to Steve Clarke and his team?
I wouldn't say I was surprised by it. We kind of all knew coming away from the Euros that some players would have to make decisions, and I actually did an interview with Scott Brown on that very point about Callum McGregor before, I think it was before Ayr played Celtic in the pre-season, and he could see the question coming. He says, I knew you'd ask me that question. So we all sort of felt, and Scott Brown was in that position where he was playing, captain Celtic, the linchpin of Brendan Rodgers' midfield. And I think he, at that point in his career, had a similar conversation with Brendan Rodgers and realised it was in his own best interest and the club's best interest for him to drop out of international football and just concentrate solely on club matters. Now, Scott Brown did that and then very quickly reversed the decision to come back out of retirement to go and play against England at Wembley in a World Cup qualifier. And then he eventually called it quits after that. So, and I think he did raise the point that his body's very different from Callum McGregor's. Scott Brown had a catalogue of fairly serious injuries. Callum McGregor he's a robot. He doesn't seem to get injured. So in that regard, could he have continued to play? I guess he probably could have. Would he be looking at the next World Cup thinking, now that would be brilliant. I've managed to qualify for €2. Can you imagine playing at World Cup? I'm sure that was factored into the conversation as well, and inside his own head, if nowhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But he's clearly decided that, you know, he's put in a lot of miles, and the games just keep on coming thick and fast. It's probably the right thing for Cal McGregor to do. It's just a sore one for Steve Clarke, who had to sit there and watch him command that midfield again today, because McGregor's one of these really understated guys,
mm-hmm.
who probably you don't really know what you've got with him until he's not there anymore. And that might be the case. That'll certainly be the case for Scotland, and it might end up being the case for Celtic one day, because you can just hang your hat on for an 8 out of 10 every week. Every week, his levels are phenomenal, and that's one kind of comfort for Brendan Rodgers, is that he knows he's got Cal McGregor there, and this guy is now entirely focused just on playing club football. So while there are question marks about what's going to happen with Matt O'Reilly, at least he knows he's got his captain there, and the thing won't fall apart for as long as Cal McGregor's in there. It might need tweaking here or there, and obviously losing O'Reilly would be a significant blow. But that's what I'm saying. If Celtic are serious about it, if they do go and bring in 3 or 4 real quality signings, then any loss of Matt O'Reilly can be offset. It can be manageable.
Mm-hmm. Quite interestingly, for the live comment on YouTube from Big Chewy, he's saying, I personally think Callum will be back in the Scotland squad within the next year or two if he feels up to it. I think for now he wants to give everything to Celtic and also maybe have more time off. I guess we'll see.
Listen, what he's got to do is, right, guys, I can't be bored with this qualification campaign. You crack on with it though. Get us to a World Cup. See, once you get us to a World Cup, Lewis Ferguson, make way.
Listen, if you're watching, Callum, that's exactly what I would do. Right, we've also had a lot of comments coming in, Keith, about Rangers, as you can probably imagine. They had their first home game of the season yesterday, of course, at Hampden. They beat Motherwell 2-1. But a lot of the comments we've had in have been kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say downbeat, but definitely a lot of Rangers fans still unconvinced, despite claiming all 3 points. This one here from Rob Jones. Do not see any style in this Rangers team. Not sure what Philip Clement is doing in training. Very poor second half. Rupert Totten, never going to watch us play Motherwell again. They're an embarrassment. So anti-football. 5 players needed treatment. First half, only 1 injured. 5 at the back. Time wasting. Although there was, I have to say, reading them back, there was a few more upbeat comments. Graham Robertson, what a player Tierney is. Get him permanently. Get Wright, Dill and Lawrence gone. And David Harvey, very confident indeed. Not many will handle Rangers. They're only warming up when they hit peak form. Stand by. One last one. Gareth Brown. Brilliant goal by Tierney, but the second half was dire. Oddly, I see us going through on Tuesday, though. Can't predict how we will play at the moment. And I think that's a good point, Keith. You don't know what Rangers are going to turn up from one week to the next.
No, or from one half to the next.
True.
By all accounts, they were on the front foot, aggressive, energetic, moving the ball well in the first half against Motherwell, and then I don't know what happened to them. They sort of lost their way badly in the second half, by all accounts. I think that this style issue that we keep talking about with Rangers, I think it is an issue. I think in this day and age, you're looking for a manager who has a clearly defined sort of signature style. I just, whatever Clement says, it's not very attractive. Mm-hmm. I think that, maybe this is his style. Maybe it is he likes long balls. Maybe it is, scrapping for the second ball, and I think he calls them duels. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the style. But I tell you what, if you're not winning anything and that's the style, then you've got a problem. I think Rangers fans will tolerate whatever the style is if they are putting in genuine a genuine challenge to Celtic at the top of the table, if they're look like they might pick up a cup along the way as well, if they're genuinely competing, then I think the Rangers supporters will be happy-ish to sacrifice style. They'll go for the substance all day long.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's neither, if you're not getting to watch attractive football and you're not getting to watch your side put in a genuine challenge for domestic supremacy, then your patience won't last too long. Not in this part of the world. I totally get why some fans will be really frustrated, because Rangers aren't a great watch, and yet they are capable of moments. And what I have seen this season so far, I think people have kind of lamented the loss of John Lundstrom, but I think they're moving the ball a little bit quicker through midfield, and that's a positive. Do they have the quality once they get it up to the players in the front line? Well, Czerny looks as if he will provide a little bit of quality. Mm-hmm. Big Dessers is Big Dessers. As we keep talking about this, and 3 games, 2 goals, and yet no shortage of critics either. I think that Rangers really need another option for that central striking position, and they need something that's not Scott Wright or Rabbi Matondo on the other wing from Czerny, because these guys, again, it's like we're talking about Celtic's options, and you've got players who have already been deemed surplus to requirements. I think the vast majority of Rangers fans would look upon Scott Wright and Rabbi Matondo as being surplus to requirement. So where's the upgrades? Mm-hmm. And I think if you've got, maybe that's it, maybe if you've got a better quality in that final third, well, if you are going to get the ball forward to them early and you're passing through midfield with a greater sort of sense of urgency and tempo, maybe the quality is the key ingredient then, in terms of what Rangers look like as an attacking force. Maybe it will come all down to the quality of the individuals in the front line. And right now, I'm just not sure they're there.
And to be fair as well, as I say, a couple of those comments were a bit downbeat, and there's still, I think, a lot of kind of spinning plates for Philippe Clement. But the next 3 games they've got, as we know, Dynamo Kiev on Tuesday night at home, then it's St Johnstone at home in the Cup, then it's Ross County at home in the league. Now, they really, on paper, are 3 very winnable games for Rangers.
And it's what they have to do is try and build some momentum, because it's been a chaotic summer. So, yeah, and there's nothing that builds momentum quite like winning football matches. And then, by the way, players get a little bit more confidence, maybe try things within the system that makes it look a little bit more fluid and easier in the eye. So, yeah, that's what Rangers will be hoping for. But a curious thing, I've been watching, there was clips floating about from the B team. I think they were playing against Derby. Yeah. I think it was at Auchenhowie. The actual B team looks as if it's playing a better brand of football than the A team. Mm-hmm. And, you've got, I think Hagi was under, did he score a hat-trick against Derby, I think?
He did.
And he's a guy that can't get a sniff. Again, deemed surplus to requirement. Todd Cantwell, where is he? Because if you're talking about improving the quality of the individual players within the system, these 2 guys look like no-brainers to me. Aye. And they're still getting a wage. They're still getting paid by Rangers. Mm-hmm. So, even if Clement decides that he wants to move them on before the end of this window, well, there's the here and the now. Mm-hmm. And in the here and the now, they need these results. This is what we're talking about building momentum. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's a lot that I'm puzzled with right now at Rangers. Perhaps there is a grand plan, and perhaps by the end of the month, it'll all become very clear. Mm-hmm. But right now, it does all feel a bit of a mess.
We actually had a comment, or a couple of comments in about Hagi. Kevin Patterson, he had his chance and he blew it. There's a big difference between bossing a Derby County B team and playing against Celtic or a decent Europa or, God forbid, Champions League team. See when you talk about...
I'd like to understand what Kevin means by he blew it. He got
exactly. He didn't do anything wrong. That's a good point.
He was a regular player making a regular high level of contribution. Yes, I think there was a feeling that there was more to come from him, but he didn't blow it. He got injured, and then he got fit again. for the start of last season in the pre-season, and he looked really bright in a couple of pre-season matches that I saw. And then he was told that he was out the door to make room for Sam Lammers. No, I think that's harsh. I don't think Hagi has blown it at all. I think he shows a good attitude, a good approach. I think he's professional. I think he's actually been really hard done. And I can't for the life of me fathom why he's not in there, even if he doesn't want to, he feels he's not a starter. Well, he's playing with Tom Lawrence right now as his number 10, and there doesn't seem to be any options beyond Tom Lawrence right now. Why not have Hagi there, or Cantwell, or somebody to give them the numbers or the options to freshen it up? Because these are talented football players, arguably more talented than some of the guys who are getting regular starts right now.
Yeah, I think the one thing that kind of caught my eye as well, Keith, over the weekend, this has just popped into my head now, but you see transfer deals getting done, like Celtic reportedly doing a deal with Stoke to sell Bosun Lol for around £2 million. You know, really good price for Celtic, I'd say. He's never played a competitive first team game. But you look at someone like Hagi sitting there, and it seems, you know, I imagine if he had suitors, he'd be gone. There's even rumours that Rangers might let him go for free.
I saw that.
It seems bizarre. I mean, he's a pro. You know, as you say, he was at the Euros this summer. He was a really talented player.
Well, exactly, and this is why I'm saying it's weird, right? Because
you've
got a guy playing at the Euros, as we've said previously, the last guy standing from the Scottish Premiership, who was still competing at the latter stages of that tournament. He is the epitome of a saleable asset, and yet Rangers seem to be, you know, by mistreating him, by throwing him into the B team, by saying that you're not good enough to get into that starting 11, you're actually chiseling away at whatever fee that you might hope to achieve from his sale. It is, I'm beyond baffled by it. I don't understand it, and I can't really fathom any argument that would make me understand why he's not, at least for the time being, for as long as he's still a Rangers player on a Rangers contract, why he's not part of that dressing room just now. Because I think he could contribute. In fact, I know he would contribute. Really strange.
Thomas
I think they were talking about originally a fee of around €3 million potentially from Fiorentina. Now, the more this goes on, the longer the window goes on, and the less game time he sees, the fact that he's just been farmed out into the B team. Well, if I'm Fiorentina, I'd be saying, well, why do you expect me to pay £3 million for a player that you don't think is good enough for your first team?
Exactly. Aye.
It's crazy.
Aye, absolutely. Just as we round off in the Old Firm for this episode, Thomas Lang's written in, responding to what you were saying earlier, Keith, on YouTube. He says, Celtic need a left-back and experienced centre-back pronto. Taylor is not for me. Personally, I don't agree with the Taylor comment, but I wanted to mention that obviously he's out of contract at the end of the season. And that's a weird one, Keith, that's kind of bubbling away without much news on it. If he's going to stay, if he's going to be Celtic's long-term left-back, why is he not signing the new deal?
Yeah, and I think he's absolutely perfectly happy where he is. So maybe that suggests that Celtic have got other irons in the fire, which might feed into what we were discussing earlier, that there will be activity and quite a lot of it between now and the end of the window. But if it was me, I'd be getting him signed up. Not only is he a reliable left back, and I understand that people will look at him and say, well, do you know what? If he was a foot taller, if he was a yard faster, then you'd have a really good left back. I think he is a really good left back. And not only is he the sort of guy who you know that you can depend upon in the big games to put in a performance, he's actually one of the leadership group in there. And it's often talked about, Callum McGregor, whenever he's talking about the group of players that set the standards for everybody else at Lennoxtown, Callum McGregor, one of the first names that he'll utter is that of Greg Taylor. Because I think he is a big personality. He's a leader in that dressing room. I'm a wee bit curious as to why that situation hasn't been resolved, because it seems like a no-brainer to me. I don't think it'll be difficult to deal with. I think he's perfectly happy where he is. And again, it maybe points to Celtic have other things lined up.
Chris Fraser has written in on YouTube. He says he's watching from Houston, Texas. You're my fix for Scottish football. Thank you, Chris. We are no heroes, right? But
Hold on while I take this cape off.
But you're very welcome, and thanks for watching.
Nice, Chris.
That was lovely. Just before we finish, Keith,
What was your point?
he didn't. That was it. That was the comment.
Oh,
So
right,
you're very welcome, Chris. Before we finish, an absolute shocker for Hearts yesterday. But again, on the flip side, great result for Dundee, who look brilliant in the minute.
Yeah, listen, ever so impressed with the work that Tony Docherty's done at Dundee. It's a terrific appointment, you have to say. I think Gordon Strachan's fingerprints were all over that one, given that he wanted Tony Docherty working with the international side as part of the backroom setup. And look, you can't fail to be impressed with what Dundee have produced. Even their pitch looked immaculate. Yeah. Which was great to see. So, no, I'm really pleased for Dundee. Enjoyed the Dundee derby in the first game of the season. That was a massive result yesterday, massive win. I tell you what, I mean, I like the look of Hearts this season, but all of a sudden they've got a potentially difficult League Cup game at Falkirk next weekend. That'll be going on the back of a real dunt at Dens Park. So, yeah, interesting. It never fails to be interesting, does it?
Absolutely, that's what we say about Scottish football. It might have its detractors, but it will never be boring. That's for sure.
Listen, I think one of the phrases that goes, the football's not world class, but the stories inevitably are.
Exactly.
That's the madhouse of Scottish football. That's why we love it.
Exactly. And I think that's a perfect note to end today's Hotline Live, Keith. Whether you're watching in Houston, Texas, or from closer afield, is that a saying? Anyway, Thank you very much for watching. We will be back tomorrow with another Hotline Live, giving you your fix of all things Scottish football. Keith, once again, thank you very much.
No sweat.
And cheers for watching. Bye-bye.
Cheers.